All right, guys, here we go. A little while ago, DC Studios copywritten the name Salvation Run for future movies and more. We got to talk about it. Hey everyone, this is Digital Charcuterie. My name is James. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to the channel and a fan of the DCU, hit that subscribe button. I talk about it and discuss it with you guys all the time right here on the channel. And let me know your thoughts on the Salvation Run in the comments down below. Do you like this idea? Where are you feeling with James Gunn's idea for Salvation Run going forward for the DC plan? Lantern's coming up next, and it's going to deal with it in some capacity. What that is, we don't quite know, but I want to talk about it and what I think the overall plan of DC Studios might be. I've been waiting on this idea for quite some time. Put my thoughts to paper. Here we go. Salvation Run in the comics was a story where villains were exiled to another planet, a place of chaos, survival, and betrayal. And Peacemaker Season 2 literally ends with Christopher Smith traveling through a portal to a dimension called Salvation. Gunn isn't being subtle there. This is the beginning of something bigger, something that ties multiple stories together. And when you start to unpack it, naturally, it'll bring us to Mongul. A lot of you down in the comments have mentioned him, and I gotta be honest with you, I think this, like I've said the center a few times, but after all of his interviews that he just did this week, I'm thinking Mongul is really practical. In the comics, Mongol rules Warworld, a gladiatorial planet where fighters are forced to battle for his amusement. He's directly tied to both Superman and the Lanterns, and he's a tangible, unstoppable threat. He's the kind of force that naturally escalates the stakes and forces the human and superhuman elements of the DCU to respond. And when you consider that Sinestro is confirmed for the Lantern series, that's a perfect narrative bridge to bring Mongol into play. This is where the four-phase structure of Gunn's DCU starts to emerge, and it's actually really smart. Phase 1 is on the instigating threat. Mongol is that threat, physical, intimidating, and immediate. He sets everything in motion because the DCU needs something that can justify a domino effect across shows and movies. Phase 2 is the human response, and this is where Rick Flag Sr. comes in. He's the operational mind behind Salvation, the guy who set up the system that contains metahumans. He creates the frameworks for the prison dimension, and it's not just a plot device, it's the logical next step after Mongol-level threat appears. The dominoes start falling because someone like Rick Flag Sr. is reacting in a way that feels earned. Phase 3, Salvation itself. This is where heroes and villains collide, where ethical dilemmas and moral gray zones emerge. Peacemaker has already set the tone here. Metahumans trapped, choices under pressure, survival versus justice. Salvation compresses the chaos into one space where characters from Peacemaker, Men of Tomorrow, and Lanterns all intersect organically. It's connective tissue, and it's where the DCU really starts to feel like a shared universe instead of isolated projects. And finally, we got Phase 4, the cosmic oversight. The Lantern Corps. Once you've established a metahuman prison under threat, it's believable that the larger cosmic entities would get involved. Lanterns respond to the situation, investigating a missing Green Lantern maybe, and the events in Salvation have consequences across the universe. It's the natural escalation from a grounded human conflict into something that spans planets and even dimensions, and it sets the stage for future DCU phases. And this feels all deliberate. Peacemaker sets up the portal and the prison, Lanterns investigates and expands the stakes, Men of Tomorrow can then take the story into a larger, emotional, and mythic space with Superman. Every project leads into the next. Every event has a cause and effect, and the best part, it all flows naturally without feeling forced or rushed. And the non-rush thing is what James Gunn so far has been excelling at. And what makes this approach so compelling is the interplay between human and cosmic stakes. Gunn isn't throwing heroes and villains together for spectacle, he's giving us a reason to care. Rick Flag Sr. represents the human response to the extraordinary, the political, the ethical, the moral weight of managing superpowered beings. The government's attempt to impose order, contains threats, and manipulate outcomes gives the universe a grounded spine. Without that human element, Salvation would just be a gladiatorial set piece. But with Flag at the center, every action has repercussions. The ripple into Phase 3, making the chaos feel earned, not random. It's strategy and consequence working hand in hand. And that's what makes this first crossover feel like it has teeth. Phase 3 itself, Salvation, is where everything intensifies. It's pressure cooker, where heroes, villains, and morally great characters collide. And Gunn's setup ensures it's not just about fights or spectacle. Mongul, or an equivalent antagonist, creates an environment where choices matter, where alliances shift, and where survival is inseparable from strategy. By using Salvation as both a narrative and a thematic crucible, Gunn allows the audience to experience the consequences of Phase 1 and Phase 2 firsthand. Characters are tested, relationships are strained, and moral lines blur. And all of that flows logically from the groundwork laid by Peacemaker and Flag. It's a masterclass in making interconnected storytelling feel natural rather than forced. Then, of course, Phase 4 would elevate everything into a cosmic scale. Another remarkable aspect is the room this structure allows for legacy and succession. Characters like Superman, Lanterns, and even secondary heroes introduced in Peacemaker have space to grow, pass the torch, and influence events meaningfully. The 4-phase model gives Gunn the flexibility to introduce younger heroes, elevate supporting characters, and show long-term consequences without breaking the logic of the universe. It's not just about spectacle, it's about creating a living, breathing world where choices, legacy, and leadership matter. You can see the connective tissue, from Peacemaker's portal to Salvation, from Lanterns investigating to Man of Tomorrow escalating stakes, and it's deliberate, thoughtful, and structured. Finally, the beauty of this phased-out approach is that it allows the DCU to feel purposeful for the first time in years. Each phase builds naturally from the last, with characters, plot points, and stakes escalating organically. Salvation Run isn't just a cool concept, it's the centerpiece that ties multiple storylines together while still leaving room for future sagas. Mongol, Krona, Vandal Savage, any villain capable of challenging heroes across moral, physical, and cosmic levels has context, motivation, and consequence. Gunn's long-term planning ensures that every character, every decision, and every ripple effect is meaningful. And that's what makes this era of DCU exciting. It's not just a series of films or shows, it's a universe that finally feels alive, interconnected, and built with intention. And I think really that's worked with the first few pieces of the DCU so far with Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker, is that they've been connected but not connected. They're very standalone in their own ways with little pieces that connect the dots to one another. I loved in the interviews that James Gunn did earlier this week, I can't remember which one it was, but he mentioned how he wasn't expecting G.I. Robot to be such a big standout breakout star in Creature Commandos, and he had already written Peacemaker, so he couldn't go back and reconfigure any of that because it had already been in the works and done by the time he moved on from the Creature Commandos script, and he just wasn't expecting that. But we will see G.I. Robot in live action at some point down the road. Hopefully that's Man of Tomorrow, maybe sooner. Maybe he shows up in Lanterns and blows all of our minds. I really doubt that. Just let's strike that from the record. I didn't say that. But I think James Gunn knows what he's doing. I think the DCU knows what it's doing. It's got a good head on its shoulders. Look, you might not have liked what's come before, but we've got a lot coming after. There's going to be different voices telling different stories, radically different voices telling radically different stories with Lantern, Supergirl, and Clayface just next year alone. So things are really heating up there, but I'm really curious if it's going to be Mongol or Krona or Vandal Savage or someone like that. I think, but also it could just be like a giant kaiju, random monster that he creates, because it's James Gunn and he loves his kaijus. But I think I don't know, those three right now, with the center still kind of being like the center and Brainiac, there's like, they are in their own gladiatorial ring for me, and they're all fighting each other right now. But that's with the comments that he made this week, and I read the comments in my comment section, and I start to see like, oh yeah, maybe this is the direction we're going, right here, right here, right here. But Lanterns, once Lanterns comes, I think we're going to have, even though I don't think it's going to be a big part of Lanterns, I think we're going to have a better understanding of where the DCU is headed with the Salvation Run by the time Lanterns is done. Even though I don't think it's going to be a massive part of that series, but I think by the time it's done, we're going to understand more. Just like with Peacemaker, right? We had no idea where it was going, but when it ended, we're like, okay, Salvation, right? So something small like that, which is going to open the door and give us even more to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Hit the like button and subscribe. Until next time, maybe the master of your own universe.